Bob Iger is promising fast and furious changes to the Walt Disney World resorts as Epic Universe gears up to challenge them. Bob Iger is also saying they have everything they need and they're not going to change one bit. Which is it? Are they turbocharging or are they staying exactly the same? Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place. I am here with theme park expert, Mr. VashSky. Vash, did you watch the Moffett-Nathanson call with Bob Iger?
I unfortunately haven't gotten around to it, but I have read a couple of transcripts and I've read a couple of notes, so I feel educated on the topic. But Jonas, it's why we have our amazing investigative reporter.
Well, okay. So yeah, I watched the call and I took notes and I compared it to the recent statements by Bob Iger. We're going to talk about this. This Moffett-Nathanson call is the gift that keeps on giving, because whenever Bob Iger gets up, there are two kinds of calls that he does. There are ones where he says everything that he's already said before with almost no change, except that he revealed Avatar Land at the last one, and then they slip that out of the transcript. They said, "Oh, it was an Avatar experience," or this one where he says things that he really should not have said, like we've talked about on this channel. The fact that he said, "Oh, well, it was basically impossible to make a profit on Disney Plus," which is like, hello, what did you just say? He did, in that same mood, whatever mood he was in, he was very candid about the parks and he had some things to brag about. Let's first of all bring up that in Q2, every single park had record revenue. Every single park had record per capita spending, and they had record attendance everywhere except for Walt Disney World, which, by the way, that's consistent with our reporting here on That Park Place and the WDW Pro channel, and of course over on the website, thatparkplace.com. We've been talking about how the Walt Disney World Resort is softening right now. It doesn't take as much to get record attendance at some of the other locations that they've had there. Of course, we also know that maybe Oriental Land Company, which owns Tokyo Disney Resort over there, they're also softening in attendance. So we kind of have some questions here about what are those record numbers exactly representing? Is Bob Iger picking and choosing?
What is the process involved in choosing which parks actually get investment and which ones don't? Now, you would think that they have a flagship location out there in Orlando that provides, 30% of the overall profit for the Walt Disney Company, and it might be wise to invest there, especially because, your biggest competition is launching its brand newest theme park right next door and within walking distance, essentially, of your flagship resort. Might be a good choice to lean into that. Also, too, Disneyland 4 just got approved. Hey, let's go ahead and invest there. But we don't know.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Bob Iger was directly asked by Michael Nathanson about Epic, and he talked about how much they've opened up at the parks over the last 6 years, specifically Star Wars Land, which is a massive land with 2 e-ticket attractions. And what you can't see right now is I'm doing the Bob Iger 2 hand motion here. Those e-ticket attractions, I haven't been on Rise of the Resistance yet. I have been on Smuggler's Run. I am never intending on going on Smuggler's Run of my own volition. Again, it's fine. I'd rather play a video game in which I pilot the Millennium Falcon with an entire controller as opposed to a few buttons, spread out across 6 people. I would actually be more interested in going through the queue for that ride than I would in actually riding the ride. Not great. But anyways, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. They talked about the Tron attraction in Shanghai, which took them about 6 years to bring over to the United States. When I say 6 years, that's 6 years of construction. Of course, the Avatar Land. It's funny that he mentioned Avatar as over the last 6 years. I do believe that was longer than 6 years ago, but I may be off about that. Vash, do you remember when Pandora World of Avatar opened up?
I believe it was, 2017? And I actually remember when it was announced, because it was the 1D23 Expo that I attended that they didn't use to announce that, and then waited a couple of months and then announced it. And I was like, what? You had just this amazing place in which you could announce it. Apparently there were some rights issues that kept that announcement from going forward, but announced in 2011, actually finally opened in 2017.
Okay, so that could be, it is 2024, so maybe. There might have been some attractions that staggered in their opening there, technically making that 6 years. I'm not going to harsh him on he's in his 70s, so I'm not going to harsh him on being off by a year or two. They say they've been investing aggressively. They're placing big bets. And they talked about something which I do believe is accurate. When Universal expands, it brings more people to Orlando. That's very true. The rising tide does lift all boats when it comes to theme park attractions. But the other figures that are coming out, there's a certain amount of attrition. What is attrition the right word? Is cannibalization the right word here? There are some projected figures that talk about who might be exiting Disneyland or how many people might go from Walt Disney World Resort over to Epic Universe. Vash, do you remember those figures?
I do. I believe they were featured in the Wall Street Journal article talking all about this, and they came from MoffettNathanson themselves, talking about how, by their estimation, they project that 1 million people who would have otherwise gone to Walt Disney World are going to Epic Universe. So that's a big shift right there. And the stat that I always bring up is it's not so much the attendance, it's about the dollars, the amount of spend that people might actually spend in Epic Universe when it comes to Mario, when it comes to new Harry Potter stuff, Dark Universe. How to Train Your Dragon is still one of the top 5 franchises, I believe, in the parks already, and that's even before the land actually debuts. The amount of spending that might occur might be very vastly different compared to Walt Disney World attendees, and that right there should alarm the Walt Disney Company more than anything.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that Epic Universe has 4 lands. Well, no, I'm going to say 3 lands that represent things that children are interested in. I mean, if we're going to talk about like even Universal Studios right now, the stuff that's coming out of little DreamWorks Land expansion, which looks like per capita, well, what's the best way? I think the return on investment for DreamWorks Land is going to be fantastic because it doesn't look like it's very expensive, but at the same time, it looks great. So I think right now Universal is a bit more versatile, a little bit more flexible in what they are willing to do in their parks. They're willing to move a little bit faster. This goes to what I was pointing to with the headline of the video here, that Disney right now is talking about doing big immersive expansions like the world of Frozen or world of Avatar or world of, and it's, they need to go more for adventures and little parks like Storybook Circus. That's probably a good one that, no one is showing up specifically for Storybook Circus, but kids are having a lot of fun in it. Smell-o-phants on Parade, not so sure about the multi-level marketing company doing advertising in the park, but these small things that you can bring into your park that are fun for kids and that they'll go, oh, well, yeah, I want to go interact with Kung Fu Panda, otherwise known as Po. Oh, well, there's a Shrek show. By the way, whatever's going on with that Shrek figure, it looks massive, and I don't understand how it is so mobile. You can interact with Donkey, you can interact with Pinocchio. It struck me at how fun that DreamWorks Land looks, and that's not even counting, of course, the Troller Coaster, which is just a re-theme of an existing attraction here. But then, of course, you have these multi-billion-dollar expansions like Epic Universe with more Harry Potter, Super Nintendo World, and How to Train Your Dragon, not to mention Dark Universe. And then right in the middle of it all is a essentially unthemed, as far as the IP situation goes, land in Celestial Park. I got it right that time. I think that Epic Universe is doing a lot of things that Disney would have done in the 90s. And Disney right now is struggling very hard to match what Universal did. I'm going to say 5 to 10 years ago by saying, oh, well, you like Harry Potter? What if we pick one of our moderately to very successful films and we just say, what if you live in that world? I don't think that's what's going to move the needle for them. That's what turbocharging is for them, immersive experiences. And I think people just want good rides and fun. Vash?
Right. I you know what? I think somebody said something about this at some time. Let me see.
Really spectacular. Spared no expense.
That's right. Spared no expense.
If it had dinosaurs, that'd be amazing.
Oh, yes. Well, might be in the future. But as Hammond said right there, spared no expense. And really, that's Universal's kind of thought process here. Now, obviously, they're spreading themselves out a lot. But you still have those pockets of just incredible quality spread throughout right here. I mean, what we're hearing from the Harry Potter attraction Epic Universe is just absolutely spectacular. Some of the stuff that we've been seeing from Dark Universe just looks great. I don't know. Did you see that footage? Maybe I'll put it in here. But did you see that footage, Jonas, of the coaster in Celestial Park.
Oh yeah, Starfall Racers,
Yeah.
which it sounds like it could be changed to Stardust Racers. We need to talk about the fact that they're being sued over that sometime very soon on this channel. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, Starfall Racers looks beautiful, and when that thing is lit up at night, which they have not done yet, it sounds like it's going to be really just gorgeous to watch. And of course, it'll be mixed with the sounds of screams. But let's talk about profit for a moment. Universal is on the rise for profit, but we want to talk about what Disney is investing in. Of course, that record revenue per park. Right now, Walt Disney World is the cash cow of the Walt Disney Company. That those Florida parks are just making money hand over fist, specifically because of Genie Plus. But it's starting to soften there. You mentioned this before, that 30% of their profit comes from Walt Disney World. Walt Disney Parks. Josh tomorrow in some of his
Walt Disney World.
Just Walt. Oh,
yes.
That's so much. So what they're doing now is they are adding in more cruise ships. They've talked about what turbocharging means. So instead of adding in more attractions at Walt Disney World, which would bring more people in to the parks, they are investing in cruise ships, and they are investing in hotels and DVC. This is all according to Bob Iger. He hasn't talked about what rides they're bringing to Disney World. He's just talked about bringing in more cruises and more DVC units, because DVC units make money hand over fist. They are people buying in for basically their timeshare experience, which I'm kind of surprised that Bob Iger is so open about using the word timeshare here, but it's timeshares. And then of course the Disneyland Resort expansion, which if you watched our other video, it sounds like that's actually a Disney California Adventure expansion more than a Disneyland expansion, according to some new changes that were made by the Disney company. Go check that one out. Vash, cruises and DVC, what do these have in common compared to a ticket to Walt Disney World?
They're all-inclusive experiences for one, but two, they require far more in terms of monetary output from guests than they do a ticket to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, etc.
Yeah, these are the things that I don't want to say they're nickel and diming guests, but DVC, they've got people for a long time, and it's guaranteed income for them. There's of course the buy-in for all of that. It's a typical timeshare thing. They've got you for a very long time. And then of course cruise ships, they make lots and lots of money there on the cruises. Of course, hotels, yet another thing where they're not adding anything to the parks themselves. They're just adding infrastructure around the parks. Epic Universe is doing other things that might even appeal to people who aren't even going to the park. That's a fascinating thing there. Vash, is there anything that we need to cover here before we wrap this video up?
Some naysayers out there will say, well, wait a minute, Jonas, come on now. We've seen year over year operating income increases from the parks division. What are you complaining about? Come on. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Hold on, guys. And I think in this conversation, it was discussed that, well, operating income has gone down at Universal's experiences division or theme park division, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, well, yeah, because one company has taken the tack to actually invest into their theme parks. And when those expenditures or capital investments or capital expenditures increase, well, obviously that's going to decrease the amount of profit that you get from incoming revenue. But that would have paid off tenfold after those things are activated, right? Whereas the Walt Disney Company, I got to say, they've taken the tact of, well, we're going to limit investments. We're going to cut actual expenditures. And then that's going to lead us to, year over year gains. And it's like, yeah, that's great, but that's not a sustainable business model, even in the realm of DVC. Why even buy a DVC if you're trying to stay near the theme parks that don't have anything new in them? And I think this is why these things have started to decline, and honestly, why they've been kind of forced to say, all right, we're going to finally invest into the theme park division because it's the only one making money, and obviously it requires investment long term.
Absolutely correct. So we want to throw this to our commenters down below. What do you think about Bob Iger's comments at the Moffett-Nathanson conference? Do you see all of these big headlines here? Record revenue at a park that didn't make them much money in the first place. Record per capita spending again. Or the fact that they've kind of admitted that Walt Disney World itself is softening a little bit. Are you going to buy a Disney cruise? Just let us know your thoughts on the entire situation in the comments down below. Like this video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.